Measure your local legislator. Well, there is a scoreboard, you know.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Of course, the scoreboard is biased on a political perspective, but, you know, squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity has put out their latest 38 Studios legislative scoreboard. And, of course, they like to score just about everything that legislators do, and we'll meet the folks from that fine organization tonight to talk about it. Glad to have you aboard. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a lot to do tonight, so let's rush to the rundown and see what's happening out there. Yeah, we wrote this, is he evolving or is he completely rudderless? And actually, the bigger question is probably, do you feel like you're a switch-pitched victim here as a constituent for Donald Trump? Look at this headline here. Is Donald Trump reversing his stance on immigration? Heck yes. Well, that question is obvious. He touted tough immigration first, now he's mulling the softening of it. Here's the latest from CBS.
Hillary Clinton wants to fling open the floodgates to our borders. Let everybody come in, open up our country.
Donald Trump warned of his rival's immigration policies even as he redesigned his own.
And your children did not die in vain.
Appearing with mothers victimized by undocumented criminals, Trump linked Clinton's approach to more crime.
She wants to let people overstay their visas without removal. One lawless order after another.
Despite his repeated calls for mass deportations, Trump now signals he may make exceptions.
We've got some great people in this country. They shouldn't be here. They're still great people.
During a television town hall, Trump said what's been obvious for days. He's looking for a way out of rounding up some 11 million undocumented U.S. residents.
There certainly can be a softening because we're not looking to hurt people.
We sought clarity from Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence, following a rally in Philadelphia.
Is Donald Trump going to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country?
Donald Trump's been very clear from the beginning that we are going to secure our borders, build a wall to do it. And he's also made it very clear, Major, that he's going to enforce the laws of this country, which the President of the United States takes an oath of office to do.
And that means deporting all 11 million people.
People who have run afoul of the law got to leave immediately.
Got to leave immediately.
Upholding and enforcing our laws is exactly what Donald Trump is going to do. The details and how we do that, we'll work that out with the Congress.
You know, I'm trying to figure out what Mike Pence is doing other than killing his political career. Now, maybe he's one of those people that actually has Donald Trump's ear and has said, by the way, Donald, there's no way to get 11 million people the heck out of here. So we got to find a way to soften this little thing. So let's go hard on the wall. Let's go hard on the criminals. But let's talk about the law being executed here. The truth is that there are a bunch of people in this country who have gone head over heels over Donald Trump, and he blew 16 other candidates away, primarily on two issues: keeping our borders safe and keeping refugees out of here. And, of course, sending back these 11, 12, 13, 14 million people who are not supposed to be here, known as illegal aliens, undocumented citizens. Well, citizens is never the right word. Undocumented immigrants. This is a switch pitch. There are 16 other candidates that are going, do you believe this? And I think there are probably a lot of constituents out there that are trying now to make an excuse for why they support Donald Trump, because this was the big enchilada. And we didn't even get to, he's not even elected yet. I mean, it's one thing if he got elected and then softened. He's softening now. It's crazy. In the meantime, she'd know better. This is unbelievable. The Clinton Foundation problems are acute, no doubt. Headlines read like this. Yep, she certainly does, says the Washington Post. And here's the latest on the actual data that the AP culled.
Lie after lie after lie. Hillary Clinton is totally unfit to hold public office.
In Austin, Trump accused the Clintons of running a criminal enterprise.
It is impossible to figure out where the Clinton Foundation ends and the State Department begins.
He cited the new analysis by the Associated Press, which examined Hillary Clinton's daily schedules as Secretary of State and found 85 of the 154 private individuals who got meetings or phone calls with her had donated to the foundation, either personally or through their organization.
This is why I have called for a special prosecutor to look into this mess.
His allies followed suit.
A special prosecutor.
Do the right thing here, appoint a special prosecutor.
The Clinton campaign fired back, saying the AP report relied on utterly flawed data, which gave a distorted portrayal of the secretary's schedule. They added that meetings with humanitarians like Melinda Gates or Nobel Prize winner Mohammed Yunus were squarely in the purview of America's top diplomat. They also rejected Trump's call for a special prosecutor.
It is an act of desperation on his campaign, given the turmoil that we've seen from his campaign in recent weeks.
Newly released emails from Clinton aide Huma Abedin show foundation donors like SlimFast founder Danny Abraham were able to nab last-minute meetings with Clinton with one call to Abedin. But State Department officials say there's no evidence those donors got any special favors. The FBI director declined to say last month whether agents had looked into the foundation connection.
I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to answer that.
Look, there's no doubt that there was going to be a major intersection between the Clinton Foundation and her role as Secretary of State. You'd have to be blind as a bat not to know that instinctively. That half of the meetings that she took with private individuals involved people who donated to the foundation makes common sense because of the networking. Is it good? No. Is it the right appearance? Absolutely not. Will the foundation have to be probably slowly wound down? Most likely. Some of the charitable work, and there's been tremendous charitable work done by the foundation, is going to have to be handed off to some other organization when she's the President of the United States. And you can't trust Bill to know the right thing from the wrong thing if it hit him in the head, right? But the real question here, before we get into special prosecutors and everything else, is what evidence is that she did any favors for anybody? You know, what kind of execution plan did she offer? She took a lot of meetings. If that's all it is, and the investigative journalism comes up with nothing else, special prosecutor calls are political campaign strategies. Donald Trump needs a bunch of them right now. It's not good. I mean, again, this election is the lesser of two evils personified for the constituents. It's not fun for any of us, I don't think. Natural disasters are always a question that we ask in our prayers. Why? This headline is brutal. At the time that we actually recorded today's show, early afternoon, the casualty number had gone to 120. And by the time you're seeing this, it might be a lot higher in Louisiana, of course, because here's the rubble in the hills of Italy. Just awful. And of course, in Louisiana, they're still doing what they can. The president finally made it down there amongst some hullabaloo as to whether he should be there, whether he's late. That's always the question. By the way, governors are the people that resolve local issues like that, not presidents, FYI. But in this day and age, we just love to have our hands held by the President of the United States. The answer is always prayers and money. Say and send both. 38 Studios here at home. Just a follow-up. Here's the headline in the on the website of the WPRI.com, folks. And here's the latest on what all the money stands for and the administration's perspective on it.
The 38 Studios deal cost taxpayers about $90 million. This settlement stems from a lawsuit started by the Chafee administration against the architects of the deal. A new settlement between the state and two major banks, Wells Fargo and Barclays. The state is set to accept nearly $26 million after a lawsuit in the failed 38 Studios deal.
That's money that is, on a gross basis, nearly half of the state's moral obligation. And we're still in pursuit of the other defendants in this case.
The state's Commerce Secretary, Stephen Pryor, says they've now recovered more than $42 million in 3 separate settlements with multiple defendants. The state took the latest settlement in exchange for dropping litigation against the banks. A spokesman for Wells Fargo says they aren't admitting liability, adding it's in their shareholders' best interest to minimize the risk that comes with a lengthy court battle.
The governor has promised that we will pursue vigorously as much of the taxpayers' money that would otherwise be lost to try to recover it for Rhode Island, and that's what we're doing.
There's now the question of whether it was worth going after the banks. Yes, the state got back about $26 million, but at a cost. Legal fees and other expenses total about $4 million.
Well, there always are legal fees in the course of litigation. What we're pleased about is that in investing in this lawsuit, which was initiated under the previous administration, but in vigorously pursuing it, we've been able to yield such a recovery for the taxpayer.
Pryor says they don't know the exact amount of money that can be recovered until they go through all of the defendants, including Curt Schilling.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the Romano administration isn't fooling anybody. It's not their lawsuit. It's Link Chafee's lawsuit. I mean, they have the fiduciary and legal responsibility to carry on, but he's not getting a nosebleed over this, and neither is the governor. You know, and by the way, would you spend $4 million to get $22 million? Of course you would. But you know, they're doing nothing. There's no heavy lifting coming from the governor's office on 38 Studios. None. It's her job to ask the Attorney General directly to release the grand jury filings or to go to court to get them released. At least the state police investigation. She's done none of that. She can go to the judge herself. She promised during the campaign that she would actually have hearings on 38 Studios. She's done nothing. So all this phony baloney, don't get fooled by it. In the meantime, at least the Journal's paying heavy attention to this, and most media outlets, you know, are giving it the kind of headlines that still make you think that it's a conversation. Justin Katz is with the Center for Freedom and Prosperity and a friend of the show. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
How's it going?
I'm buoyed by the idea that the media is still paying attention to this disaster, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm starting to get the question from people. Do you think people really care? And I think they do, especially as new information comes up.
It's a weird kind of care, though. It's been going on for so long.
Yeah, and you get the sense a lot of people want it to go away, which is one of the only downside to getting money from the banks to help pay the bill.
Do they want it to go away? This is the question I ask on the radio all the time, and here, of course. Do they want it to go away, or do they wish there was some kind of vetting and resolve so they knew what happened before it goes away?
Oh, well the people want the vetting, but there are a lot of people on the inside, I think, that...
Oh, no doubt. The movers and shakers,
yeah,
the establishment,
and so these settlements really help them out. And I wonder what the cash value in the settlement was to get this off the politicians' plate. Meaning when you're coming up with the number that the banks can live with and the state can live with, the banks have to price in the incentive for the politicians to make this whole thing go away, I would think. So I just wonder, speculate.
Yeah, how about the Stefan Pryor with all of that? You know, come on, man. He talks a lot, but he's not saying anything. She's done nothing that she could be doing to advance the cause for the people.
Well, actually, what struck me about that is I almost miss the old days with the EDC, the Economic Development Corp, where it was just some dry, wonky agency, quasi-public agency, and here. How is he the spokesman for this? Where's the governor, or doesn't she have spokespeople?
Right. He's supposed to be getting business.
Yeah, I don't know why he's promoting her, especially versus prior administrations that didn't do as much as she's doing. Just the promotion. I've noted this on the Ocean State Current before. The idea that the Commerce RI website is running Raimondo press releases and stuff like that. That's what struck me in that segment. You know, it's off topic from 38 Studios, obviously, but in the meantime, yeah, the cover-ups will continue as long as there's no. And here's the thing too. It's almost like we're being bid down. Like, oh well, we got 26 million. Well, we still owe whatever 40 million, right. 50. Would the controversy have been less 5 years ago if we said, oh, don't worry, taxpayers, we only bilked you for $40 million. Right. So
there's a way to evaluate, at least according to Justin's organization, your legislators regarding this scandal of 38 Studios, and we'll cover that also with Monique Chartier, the communications person for the center, when we come back. In the meantime, real quick, I just want to remind you that at CumberlandKitchen.com, you can see all of the before and after photos for work that they have done for recent projects, and you'll get a real feel for the kind of situation you might be going through, what you have now versus what you could have. The pictures are pretty, and the project manager will handle your project, whether it's kitchen or bath, on time and on budget. Check it out at CumberlandKitchen.com. Be right back. That is the website for the Center for Freedom and Prosperity, where you can find the 38 Studios legislative scorecard. Joining us in the conversation is Monique Chartier. She's the communications manager and all around get on the phone and argue the points on talk radio and here on the TV set person for the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. Welcome. Nice to see you again. What's the purposefulness of a 38 Studios legislative scorecard?
So this started actually when the Attorney General announced several weeks ago that there would be no criminal charges come out of his investigation. Not only did he announce that, but he announced that the case would remain inactive but open, and accordingly he would not release any documents. Right? Very, very, very convenient for a political cover-up for everybody. So that then was followed by calls for him to release the documents and for somebody to ask the courts to release the documents. And many of those calls came from very credible people, open government groups, and the center, in fact, joined those calls. But we also noticed that there were calls from officials, specifically legislators, who we didn't recollect had a very good voting record on 38 studios in the General Assembly.
Oh, you mean Johnny-come-lately types,
The
trying to look good at
Johnny-come-lately
the end of the
type.
whole thing? Yeah.
Especially now that the Attorney General had put up the shield, the political shield, and had announced that the documents were not going to be released.
It was ironic that Speaker Mattiello was the first to call out for the documents to be released, right?
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, he's really been aggressive with those legislative oversight hearings.
Yeah, well, we found 15 pieces of legislation, many under his speakership, where either an investigation was the direct purpose of the legislation or would have been an indirect cause, like as if they didn't have to pay the bond, there would have been an investigation.
You
for the
gave
insurance.
the speaker an F.
We sure did.
Wow.
I'm afraid that he was one of 8 legislators who were all of a sudden calling for transparency in the 38 studios, but when you look back at their voting record, they have a very bad voting record on the 38 studios. When it counted, they did the wrong thing by the taxpayers.
Voting records, okay, so give me a quick, we're not going to be able to go over everybody, but tell me, when you put an index together like this, what are the key questions and measurements?
Well, this was relatively easy because we do it with our Freedom Index every legislative session. Generally, we read the legislation, decide whether it's a positive impact, negative impact, and on a scale of 1 to 3 in either direction, how good or bad it would have been. And once we have that, it's just a matter of counting the votes. And
what kind of piece of legislation would other than the ultimate vote on the loan guarantee program back in that fateful night in June of 2010, what legislation impacts the 38 studios' current saga?
Well, for example, the vote every year to pay the bond, make the bond payment, that has to be allocated every year. And if legislators had voted not to pay that, obviously the insurance would have kicked in and they would have come in and asked a whole lot of questions and we would have gotten a whole lot of answers. So that if to vote in favor of that.
Okay, so that's an annual vote. That
Yes,
comes
it
up
sure
in the
is.
budget every year.
It
They've
sure
got to
does.
re-ratify that decision.
Yes, indeed.
Huh.
And also,
what else?
Also, the budget is unique. I mean, I wasn't sure we were going to get many votes for the scorecard because obviously legislators can put legislation in, but if the Speaker or the Senate President squashes it, then you never get a vote out of it. But because of the budget process, they're able to put in floor amendments. So many of them we're going to take money from this place to pay for a special investigation. That was an amendment to the budget, so there was a vote, obviously voted down every time. Others to do similar things or reallocate money.
I see Patricia Morgan has an A+, the state representative, the Republican, and to her credit, I think she has been one of the more aggressive voices here. But I think you got to be wary. I took her on and a couple other Republicans on for putting up amendments last minute that you know are destined for failure, and frankly weren't the product of a lot of diligence either. If only to curry favor with the constituents on a fake left go right basis, or maybe to get points on your scoreboard.
Well, yeah, I mean that. People are going to game the system, but frankly, even
the righteous indignation that you see from some of these legislators are part of gaming at least public opinion.
Yes, absolutely, and that was partly why we did the scorecard, was to see if there was a difference between what they're saying now and how they actually voted when it counted.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the late minute, and I throw the 38 studios, independent prosecutor amendment into the budget, which is, come on, at some juncture, it's a bunch of whistling Dixie, if only to get some FaceTime on Capitol Television and maybe a nudge here.
But it really matters. If everybody had voted for that, we would have answers now. We would have accountability at this point. So it really does matter. And I'm not sure that a lot of lead up is needed for something like that. I think that was very good that she did that because we do need accountability, and I'm not sure it was a big deal that it was last minute.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that. Again, I'm not suggesting
that
she's not championed some of the concepts that all three of us would agree on. We're all on the same page for the most part on this. But I also I don't like getting my chain jerked at the end by last minute, oh yeah, end type of efforts.
But that's how things that are politically popular get out and have their chance to become law. And if people don't vote for them, then you can hold them accountable. I mean, that's at that level of populism. I mean, I would say that's how the system's supposed to work. You put in. I mean, it was very interesting. In 2013 was the first year the bond payments came up, and there were multiple. So we're not going to pay it, and we're going to give the money to pensions. And certain legislators voted a certain way. Oh, we're going to give it to the disabled people. Certain legislators voted, and it was switching off. these are the ways you can, especially in a state where the Speaker and the Senate President have an iron grip on what gets votes. These are ways you can actually get a read on what people are doing.
Fair enough. When we come back, I want to hear from my guests what they think the end game of 38 Studios will look like. You know, kind of a slow death, or will there be a punctuation? Stay with us. Welcome back. My friends from the Center for Freedom and Prosperity have a 38 Studios legislative scorecard. Of course, you go to the website, which of course is
rifreedom.org.
rifreedom.org. We'll have the easy for you to say. That'll be on the website, our website as well, on foxprovidence.com if you've missed it. How's this thing going to end? What's your crystal ball say? The 38 Studios saga will end when?
I don't know. It's a very good question, actually, because there's 3 areas of accountability. There's that is needed. There's criminal accountability. There's financial accountability, which is the civil case, and then there's political accountability. So it's a very good. And there's even, we are concerned that the criminal and the civil areas are covering for the political accountability. So it's, I don't know. That's hard to answer.
Well, I've been definitely encouraging people to leverage their political power, meaning the voters, to have some accountability here, because that's how it's ultimately supposed to work. If I'm prognosticating, I have to say we've got a few more years left of payments. That'll happen, and then we'll all be primed for the next big controversy with all these handouts that the Commerce RI is giving out. And when that blows up in a Brookings report and Roadmap Rhode Island and that all, then we'll roll right into the next controversy for our next decade.
You know what's really interesting, both of your answers, because I think they're well thought out. My answer is never. I think it will always bleed into the next public-private deal.
And well, it should.
And contaminate the thinking process on what may be legitimate public-private deals. I know you're not big on a lot of them, but there are, the Superman building will be the next conversation out there. It'll never get off the ground because people, while they're sick of 38, are so sick of being sick of 38, they will apply what happened to 38 to every new deal that's coming up. And that's what the leadership never gets. Last word?
That's exactly right. And that's why there needs to be political accountability, because we won't be able to move past it without it.
Well, I'd rather just end all those special deals and moral obligation bonds. And I think that's probably the bigger cover-up.
But there are times when the taxpayers have got to fund a project that's there for the well-being of the entire community.
There's a process for that. You put it on a ballot and the people vote for it and you get a bond. That's how it should work. These deals are contrived to go around in so many ways.
In many ways you're right. And in some of those deals you get voted down to it sweet. Why? Because of the lingering stench of 38 Studios. Go to rifreedom.org and read how your legislator did on the 38 scoreboard. Always good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. The Warwick North Little League team got beat in the bottom of the 6th on a couple of singles to left that scored runs after they had homered to go on the top of the 6th. Now, see, I'm talking about the play-by-play of a televised broadcast of a game involving 11 and 12-year-olds. So I'm falling into the same syndrome that I have qualms over. Having said that, they ought to be proud of themselves. It never ends well other than for the champion of the world. They did a good job, and they'll remember it for the rest of their lives. We'll see you. Thanks for watching.